Welcome to Early Age Club, where we break down one microcap or SME stock a day using our simple structured 20-factor scorecard. Microcap investing can be rewarding, but it's also full of traps. Our goal with this series is to help every retail investor avoid the common mistakes and develop a more thoughtful approach when it comes to investing. If you're new here, I recommend checking out the explainer video on how to use the scorecard. Try scoring the company yourself as it will give you real hands-on clarity. Today's section is divided into understanding first the business model, the industry, and then we use our 20-factor scoring, and finally our take on valuations and risk. This company analysis and discussion are part of our internal conversation as we review companies from our ongoing 500 plus microcaps and small cap stocks. We are sharing this to retail investors can build a structured framework when it comes to microcap investing. Just to be clear, this is not an investment advice. Our goal is to help you invest smarter and safer and not tell you what to buy.
The company we are analyzing is All E Technologies Limited. Basically, it is a B2B provider of digital transformation and IT services built on Microsoft platforms. It provides enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, and human capital management, along with implementation services via Microsoft Dynamics 365, Power Platform Solutions, AI data engineering, and Azure based platforms. Basically, what they do is they create customized softwares for their clients, and they also provide consulting, integration, and they also do Microsoft licenses reselling. So they use these Microsoft based platforms, and on that they provide some value added services. So they customize the softwares as per their clients' requirements, and then they provide these softwares to their clients. So that's basically what their core activity is. It serves the manufacturing, financial services, EPC, retail, education, and travel industries. They have specific tailored products for each of these particular industries. So these are already existing products, and in case a client wants to tailor it to their specifications, they'll do the same thing based on the client's needs and provide that software. They have a moderately predictable blend of milestone driven projects along with long term service contracts. So I'll be covering the contracts later on. And they have high customer stickiness. So they have around 92% of their revenue, which comes from repeat recurring clients. And they try to pursue as much cross selling as possible. Again, I'll cover that later. And yeah, basically, they have a very strong repeat business, and their customers keep coming back to them. So these are some of their top 10 customers. Okay. So talking about their business segment breakdown, 36% of it comes from software licenses and 64% comes from software services. And yeah, and in FY25, 60%, around 61% of their service revenue came from the Americas, and India was around 24%. Rest of them were all small contributions. And the industries they serve are professional services around 30%, manufacturing 14%, trade and distribution 11%, and F&B is 10%. And after that, there are some small other services. So moving ahead, their MD is Dr. Ajay Mian, and he holds a PhD in physics, and he was an ex-employee of Tata Unisys, which is now a TCS company. And he was very much into physics earlier. So he did his PhD in physics, and then he was a teacher in physics, but then he discovered that computing is something that he really enjoys. So then he ventured into that field to join Unisys. That's how his passion for it started. So he basically has over 20 years of industry experience in this field. And he was also a VP at Eurolink Systems for a while. And the core team includes some CA, MBA, and tech professionals, and they are all highly experienced individuals with experience across finance, R&D, and systems integration. And there were no legal or regulatory issues against the promoters or the directors, so they all have a clean track record. And they have a very long operating history and global clientele, so that reflects their capability and credibility. Coming to the industry and peer analysis, so the global Microsoft business applications market is valued at over $35 billion, and it is expected to cross $50 billion in the next 2 to 3 years. The Indian IT industry revenue is at $227 billion as of FY22, and it contributes around 8% to GDP. and they are targeting 10% by FY26. So this company basically operates in a high growth Microsoft ecosystem where Dynamics 365, which is the platform they use, the softwares on which they build their own wares, that market is growing at 40% year on year. Some of the key competitors include Sonata Software, Infosys, TCS under their Dynamics or Cloud Verticals groups, and mid-tier IT firms. So all eTech is a basically it's a Microsoft focused specialist, and they have a lot of inner circle recognition. So basically Microsoft has acknowledged their contribution, and they also have some very strong IP led intellectual property led offerings. Some trends in the industry are surge in cloud adoption, AI driven analytics, digital transformation, and cybersecurity. So, digital transformation is basically what they try to do is for their clients, they try to completely digitalize all their operations from start to finish. So, this basically improves tracking and it improves the overall efficiency of the business. And one more thing is that the war which had started in Ukraine was basically a big location where most of the IT demand was outsourced from Europe and US. But since the war started there, most of this demand has shifted to India. So this has created a lot of tailwind for players like All eTech. Coming to the historical performance, so their total income grew 20% year on year from FY24 to 25, and their EBIT grew 50%, and their net profit margin was 20% as of FY25, and the growth in net profit was 53%. Talking about future outlook and management commentary. So they have an asset light model and they don't have any major physical capex planned over the next few years. So mainly they plan to focus on talent, intellectual property, and the new subsidiaries which they have started in Dubai and Canada. The growth which they plan to do is it's driven by high margin consulting led projects and intellectual property based vertical solutions, and 92% of their revenue is recurring. So they have a very strong base with rising contribution from cross selling to their existing clients and to procuring new clients. They've opened up new service lines in areas like cybersecurity, AI, and data engineering, which is gaining traction very fast. And they've won large deals in North America, and they are bidding in global tenders to compete with tier one big IT players. In their con call, they've mentioned that Middle East and Americas are the fastest growing markets for them, and Africa and APAC is what they're targeting after that. And the management has guided for sustained double digit growth due to secular AI and cloud tailwinds. So, in their con call, they said that they're basically seeing a broad based demand for digital transformation, and AI and data engineering is emerging as one of the fastest growing areas. And their investments in new geographies and new offerings, which I mentioned, cybersecurity, data engineering, and AI, it's already yielding positive results. And this is what is going to lead their growth in the future. So talking about the bull case, they have actively participated in tenders. So they've won a significant one in Canada, which is a $3 million tender for a project over the next 3 years for a Canadian regulatory body and also another insurance company in Canada. So these are two of the tenders which they've secured, and they have very strong financials. So they saw 21% revenue CAGR over the 5 year period from 2021 to 2025, and PAT at the same time grew at 58%. Operating margin also improved from FY23, it was 14%, and in FY25, it's up to 22%. So this was also driven by scale and shift to higher margin services, and they aim to continue focusing on the same high margin activities. So 92% of their revenue is coming from repeat customers, and this ensures high predictability and customer stickiness. Also, they have an asset light model. They have zero debt and very low working capital. They have, of course, no inventory, and their receivables are also quite within limits. And apart from that, they also have very high ROCE and ROE. So that's another thing where they can benefit. And their focus is on AI, data engineering, and cybersecurity. As I mentioned, these are all their high growth and high margin areas, along with strong global tailwinds in the same. And their new verticals where they are focusing and their differentiation will make margin upside possible. And also, the last thing is that they are expanding globally. So, via their Canada and Dubai subsidiaries, they are trying to win large international contracts versus global majors. Talking about the bear case, so first thing is that their entire business is highly dependent on that Microsoft ecosystem, and any policy or platform shift could disrupt their entire revenue from this platform. Their global expansion adds another execution, compliance, and talent risk if they venture into more unfamiliar geographies. Another thing is that they are highly concentrated in the US region, which is where most of the margins are the highest. So, in case any major policy shifts or any geopolitical concerns occur, then they will definitely suffer because, as I mentioned, 60% of their revenue is coming from that region where the margins are much higher compared to India, where the margins are lower. Also, despite having recurring revenue, there is always project driven volatility, and large deal delays can skew their results. And fast moving tech reserve landscape. So, in case there is a failure to keep up with AI, cloud, then this could erode their relevance. So, now I'll come to the 20 factor score. So, I'll start with the governance and promoter behavior. So they had their IPO in Jan 2023 of 39 crores, out of which expansion was 25 crores and acquisition of other businesses for growth was 10 crores. So most of it was for expansion purposes. So I've given a 5. Their promoter track record, etc., was all clear. Total promoter holding was around 50%. And related party transactions, yes, they had some related party transactions. So they had 8 subsidiaries and 5 other related companies, but all the related party transactions were within limits, nothing concerning. Yeah, board composition was also clear. There was no promoter family dominance either. And salary compensation was within limits as well. And there was no change in CEO, CFO, nor the auditors. And even the auditor and credit opinion was clear. Of course, there was no debt, so no credit opinion, and no regulatory issues in the company. And they had all their investor disclosures in place. Talking about financial health, so their business concentration risk was very minimal. The top 10 customers contributed 24% in FY24. So I've given a 5. And revenue growth has been consistent, and the receivables as a percentage of revenue has always been 12-13%, never exceeded that in the last 5 years, so nothing concerning there. Operating cash flow has also been positive since FY21, and the reason for this is that their receivables and payables are always within control. And of course, they don't have any inventory, so they don't have to worry about that. And so that's why they have consistently high operating cash flow as their net profits are rising. And they have favorable credit policies, so that's why they maintain their low receivables consistently, and their cash conversion cycle is also like almost less than 2 weeks. So that was all clear. They don't have any inventory. Sorry, they don't have any fixed assets since they are a services based company. Most of their total assets are just intangible assets. So that's what forms a greater part of their assets. And that's why the fixed asset turnover is very high. So they don't, as I said, they don't plan to venture too much into physical capex. So that's why the capex has been low historically. Debt, they have no debt and more than enough interest coverage. And they don't have any inventories, which is why their quick ratio and current ratio is same. And the reason why it's high is because there has been a buildup in cash over a period of time. So that's why their quick and current ratios are high. And in FY23, there was a dip in ROCE and ROE, but this was because of their IPO proceeds. So that's why but post IPO, their profitability kept improving. So that's why the ratios have increased again. And there was high growth in FY23-24. So that's why the inflated base of the previous year made it hard for higher future growth in FY25. So that's why there is a slight, you can see there hasn't been a increasing growth in FY25. But apart from that, yeah, their profitability, etc., was very high. So their net profit PAT margin is around 22%. So yeah, I've given a 5. So the total score is coming to 100.
Before we deep dive, quick note, we are opening Early Edge Club to a small founding cohort of 15 to 20 serious microcap investors. We are building a research first community where we break down businesses together. Every month, we deep dive into 2 microcap stock chosen by the community. You will be surrounded by thoughtful, like minded investors from diverse backgrounds, And we are keeping this group small intentionally to preserve the quality of discussion and make a real personal connection. If that sounds like the kind you want to be part of, fill out the short form linked in the description and we will reach out to you soon. Very interesting company, definitely something that needs deeper research. And to be honest, from my side, I don't understand technology that much, and that's why I would take help from my friends within the investing community who understands technology much better. But definitely this is something that I liked from their presentation. What they're saying is Microsoft Business Application Suite is growing faster than the market, and the AI powered copilot has push the product line head and shoulders above competition. I've been following, it's doing really great, and they are banking on a Microsoft product suite. So as long as that is there, it should do well. And for this company, I believe everything boils down to valuation, currently at a PE of 23. Management expects double digit growth going forward. Considering they have been growing, you could see the variation in the best case and the worst case. So it's a predictable 20-25% growth that they have been consistently clocking. Yeah, 20 is 20 COVID years. We can neglect that. There has been a margin improvement here. I think it is because of the falling employee cost. So they're able to increase their sales without materially increasing the employee cost. So needs to see going forward with the kind of orders they get, whether the employee cost would revert back or would it keep falling. So that is one thing to keep track. This trend can also be because they are using a lot of AI and increasing their operational efficiency. So let's be conservative and take the worst case and take an average of 17. 20 is a good PE to be. So in that case, the price target at 1 year forward price target comes to 326. It's currently trading at 347. So most of the things are factored in. I would say everything depends on PE rating currently, and let's see how that plays out. But if you have a longer time frame, they are doing 22 crores of operating cash flows, a very good operating cash flow to net EBITDA conversion as well. But let's take net profit in this case. They have done 30 crores. And if our return expectation is 20 and terminal growth rate is 3, if you have a 5 years time horizon and a terminal multiple of 15, then the implied earnings growth rate has to be, so basically the company has to grow at 20-23%, which is what they have grown in the past. But if you're giving a multiple of 20, then they have to grow at 17.5%. So everything for this company, I believe, boils down to the multiples. But conservatively, even though not 20, then I think a 15% CAGR is something which, if you have a 15% return expectation and 15 PE, is something which is more realistically achievable. So 15 to 20% is something all e-tech can do if they're able to continue growing at this rate of 18 to 25%. Overall, a very good company. Would like to dig a much more deeper into their product suite to understand the business competitiveness and what is special moat that they have. I hope you found this framework useful. If you follow this company or have any interesting insight, we would love to hear from you. Drop a comment below. If you have scored this company using our 20-factor scorecard, feel free to share your score and how it compares with ours. If you found this useful, consider subscribing and also check out other videos where we break down more microcap companies and SME companies. If you are interested in joining our small research first cohort, the link to apply is in the description below. Thank you for watching and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.